wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. This is Steve coming to you from Conway, Arkansas. Shout out to anyone who might be listening in Ukraine. Our thoughts are with you. So here in Conway, I'm teaching as per usual. This week we had some things out of our power. I had a sick son who was sick for an entire week, and then an ice storm, which has been an interesting week. In fact, at the end of this episode, I will try to put a little clip of the sounds of the ice storm falling on the roof of my metal shed. Some of you might appreciate that. So I'm going to do another reading of Musonius Rufus. I may not do the entire book this way. I might summarize some of Musonius Rufus rather than read it all directly. But I thought I'd do another one this week, number 2 from the fragments of Musonius Rufus. This, of course, being from the same book I read from last time by Cora Lutz. And I will put a link to that where you can find it in the show description. So this week, Musonius is talking about the fact that virtue, he thinks, is something that all of us wish we had or think we have. We have a desire for it in a natural way. He thinks that the quest for virtue is inborn in all humans and that all humans can live the virtuous life. The fragments of Musonius Rufus, number 2, that man is born with an inclination toward virtue. All of us, he used to say, are so fashioned by nature that we can live our lives free from error and nobly. Not that one can and another cannot, but all. The clearest evidence of this is the fact that lawgivers lay down for all alike what may be done and forbid what may not be done, exempting from punishment no one who disobeys or does wrong, not the young, nor the old, not the strong, nor the weak, not anyone whomsoever. And yet, if the whole notion of virtue were something that came to us from without, and we shared no part of it by birth, just as in activities pertaining to the other arts, no one who has not learned the art is expected to be free from error. So, in like manner, in things pertaining to the conduct of life, it would not be reasonable to expect anyone to be free from error who had not learned virtue, seeing that virtue is the only thing that saves us from error in daily living. Now, in the care of the sick, we demand no one but the physician to be free from error, and in handling the lyre, no one but the musician, and in managing the helm, no one but the pilot. But in the conduct of life, it is no longer only the philosopher whom we expect to be free from error, though he alone would seem to be the only one concerned with the study of virtue. But all men alike, including those who have never given any attention to virtue. Clearly, then, there is no explanation for this other than that there is no other explanation for this other than that the human being is born with an inclination toward virtue. And this indeed is strong evidence of the presence of goodness in our nature, that all speak of themselves as having virtue and being good. For take the common man. When asked whether he is stupid or intelligent, not one will confess to being stupid. Or again, when asked whether he is just or unjust, not one will say that he is just. In the same way, if one asks him whether he is temperate or intemperate, he replies at once he is temperate. And finally, if one asks whether he is good or bad, he would say that he is good, even though he can name no teacher of virtue or mention any study or practice of virtue he has ever made. Of what, then, is this evidence, if not of the existence of an innate inclination of the human soul toward goodness and nobleness, and of the presence of the seeds of virtue in each one of us? Moreover, because it is entirely to our advantage to be good. Some of us deceive ourselves into thinking that we are really good, while others of us are ashamed to admit that we are not. Why then, pray, when one who has not learned letters, or music, or gymnastics never claims to have knowledge of these arts, nor makes any pretense of knowing them, and is quite unable even to name a teacher to whom he went, why, I say, does everyone profess that he has virtue? It is because none of those other skills is natural to man, and no human being is born with a natural faculty for them, whereas an inclination towards virtue is inborn in each of us.
So Musoni starts off by saying that anyone can live without error. This idea of becoming a sage. The idea is if we practice virtue through training and then we live it out each day, we are mindful of our constant thoughts and actions, that we can live virtuously and we will not commit error. I think, I'm not an expert at this exactly, but by not commit an error means a moral error. It doesn't mean we might not get in a car wreck or we might make a decision that didn't work out for the best, but we did the best we could with the information we had. So we did not make errors of judgment, and we were just, and we were moderate, etc. And he says anyone can do this, and in fact, everyone acts as if they are on the same path, even if they're not philosophers. You can walk up to someone and say, "So, are you just?" Or are you unjust? I'm just. Well, are you kind of prudent? Do you make good choices? Yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty smart. And he says, yeah, people will claim these things. You won't walk up to someone and say, hey, are you a musician? And they'll lie to you. Like, oh yeah, I play 7 instruments. He said people won't lie to you about these other life skills, but they will tell you that they are wise, just, brave, etc., because they know they should be. That in each of us is this inborn desire for the virtues. I've never done a study to see if that holds up, but it does make some sense in that, you can walk up to someone and ask them if they're good at math or if they are, like he says, are you a musician? Are you a lawyer? They're not going to usually lie to you about that, but if you ask them, oh, are you just? And that, yeah, okay. Well, how did you train to be just? Who did you read? Who was your teacher? What practices do you do to make sure you are honing your sense of justice? And then, you can catch them in that because it's something we think we should just know how to do and be born with, not something that we practice. But Musoni says we all have this within us, this quest for virtue. Even if we're not sure how to pursue it or have never been guided towards it, we still think we're at least somewhere on the path towards these virtues. But we know that we have some good folks to follow. We can't claim to fully be virtuous, but we know that we can practice courage by doing things that scare us occasionally. We know we can practice temperance. In fact, if you want to join me, when I was more of a practicing Catholic, we did Lent every year, and I still keep up with the 40 days of some kind of hardship. Give up something that you really like buying things on the internet, or abstain from alcohol, or abstain from something else, or do something positive rather than abstaining. Like, I will donate this much to charity every week during Lent, or whatever it might be. During this 40-day period until the beginning of spring and in Easter, you can do something like that to train yourself in temperance. You can train yourself in justice in similar ways by once again thinking about what's important to you in terms of helping others, and then actually acting on it rather than telling yourself one day I will act on it. Volunteer for what is it, Boys and Girls Club or Big Brothers Big Sisters or a local charity. Do something. Just do it. Get it done. Make it happen. Make it part of who you are. We can practice these things. We can practice prudence by just, reading the Stoics, thinking about things thoroughly, checking our own biases. We are all biased in some ways. We all have blind spots where we will believe things because we want to believe them rather than because they're true. We all have these sorts of things that we could work on to make ourselves more wise, more prudent. And that way, if someone asks us, are you just? We could say, well, I'm trying, and here's how I'm trying, and here's why I'm trying, and here's how I think I'm improving. And then you will actually not just show that you have the seeds of virtue, but that seed of virtue is growing into a solid tree, the tree of virtue, as it were. All right, all. That's some Musonius. Remember, this is the guy that taught Epictetus. This is a very smart dude. He was exiled a few times. Really stood up for what was right. Stood up for what he believed in. Someone worth paying attention to. Check out his works. I'll put the link to where you can read this text in its full glory. It's one side of the translation is English, and then the other side is, I guess, what I'll call original Greek. I don't read Greek. Don't even know what any of the letters are. It's all Greek to me, but maybe you can, and you can check that out. I'll put a link in the show description. Meanwhile, review the podcast, like it, share it, shoot me an email. All these things either keep me motivated or help others to find the podcast and keep it rolling. I hope you are well wherever you are in the world. And once again, my thoughts with those in Ukraine. Over 100 years ago, my great-grandfather was captured by the Russians in Ukraine in World War I, before he joined the Czechoslovak Legion and fought all the way to Vladivostok, sailed to America and went back to Europe. And so I don't have family from there, but I have family that have shed sweat and blood there, and my thoughts are with them. So everyone, seize the day, carpe diem.